All right, so this is probably the most eventful NFL trade deadline you've seen in possibly the last decade. I mean, it was entertaining. I was just saying in one of my classes today, excuse me, watching all the updates come through. It was nonstop. There's a lot to unpack here, and I think that we should just get it started with talking about probably the most influential transaction of all of them, Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the trade and how it's paid off dividends so far, I mean, he didn't have the greatest of showings against Kansas City last week, but he was also limited on touches and had 1 day of practice with the team, and he still did pretty freaking well. And then with the mind that is Kyle Shanahan at the helm, he just drew up every fucking play that they could this weekend, and it's pretty incredible. And it looks to be like, yeah, turns out it's a pretty freaking good trade when you get a good guy and put him in the probably one of the best running teams in the league. Who knew?
Let's scratch the word running out and just keep it one of the best teams in the NFL. That's
Fair enough.
that's I believe the 49ers are, especially after this trade for Christian McCaffrey. Zeke, what are you thinking about the Niners?
Well, I think it was definitely beneficial to have Christian this past week because Debo was out, and you could barely even tell that Debo was out because Christian McCaffrey did everything, rushing, catching, hell, he even threw the goddamn touchdown. And that's impressive. Biggest thing is obviously the health, but I think they'll manage his usage right. I mean, Carolina. I mean, kind of the guy other than DJ Moore was a jackass, by the way, but it was a hell of a pickup for them. It was justified, right? When you have that good of a roster, why not make that move? You're going for it. The hell, why not? I would have done the same thing.
Hell, especially considering what they gave up, which were all conditional picks for losing their coaches.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't even their main picks. They just gave away picks that they're just like, these are extra.
Right.
Take them. Enjoy.
Right. Well, why not?
They're just such a layered team when you really look at it. I mean, people can say what they want about Jimmy Garoppolo, but at the end of the day, he gets the job done. He does what he needs to do to win. They're very well coached. They're a very complete football team, and especially now with the addition of Christian McCaffrey, when San Francisco when everybody's pulling in the right direction and the same direction, and they're clicking on all four cylinders, they're honestly the best team in the NFC, and I don't even think it's particularly close. So then there's the next one that I wanted to bring up is T.J. Hawkinson to the Minnesota Vikings. That one caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie.
You want to go for it, Z? You want to take this one first?
Yeah, listen, I love T.J. Hawkinson. It's not just because he's on both of my fantasy teams. Like, really tell how much I love him. Just another, Irv Smith's hurt. He's going to be out a while. So, another weapon. And, I mean, T.J. Hawkinson's better than Irv Smith. But another weapon for Kirk. I mean, Kirk needs it, especially. He's really going to need it in the playoffs because, A, they're going to be there. And, B, we all know how he is in primetime games. So, want to add another option, right? I was surprised the fact that you make that trade in division. That's a little weird to me. But I guess, when you're the Detroit Lions at this point, what the hell do you really got to lose? Who cares if he goes to Minnesota? You're not going to be good for the next 5, 8, 10 years, right? So I like it. I think it was a hell of a move by Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a great move for Minnesota. I mean, they've already got somebody who, is just a monster in Jay Jettas. You got a reception machine in Adam Thielen. It's an incredible running back coming out of the backfield with Dalvin Cook. Get a big physical guy for over the middle for, Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's going to light it up. And they're 6-1 right now. So you imagine with a talent that is TJ Hawkinson, I mean, they're just going to continue to progress. And man, I'm afraid to call it right now, but they got the NFC on lock, and you wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings end up as the number 1 seed in the NFC at the end of the year.
The wild world that would be, huh?
Every once in a while, teams just have their year. they just have that year where everything just goes in a direction. Everything they touch is gold. And then you have other years where everything you touch is broken. That's what Minnesota was last year. All those close games. They battled and battled and battled and just barely fell short. And it was every week was just heartbreaking. They just barely missed the playoffs, and if they had capitalized on 2 or 3 opportunities throughout the season, they would have possibly had 11 or 12 wins last year. But then you fast forward to this year, and all those close games that they were losing, they're now winning, and you can attribute that to great coaching. And now you have something like this T.J. Hawkinson deal. That fell on their lap. Like there's sometimes where most of the times you can really say, hey, this general manager is a wizard. Like the way he orchestrated this trade was brilliant, and I'm sure the Vikings GM did just that. But there's some opportunities that come your way that you can't even explain. It's just luck. That's what happened with the Minnesota Vikings today, and all those close games with not winning. It's just been the year of the Viking. It really has. It's been the year of Minnesota, and I'm happy to see the purple and gold, one of my favorite fan bases and favorite organizations in the NFL. So truly at the heart, I'm happy to see it. And then looking at it from the other angle, from the Motor City, this move was symbolic to me. There are a couple moves today that were I'm gonna keep using that word, symbolic to me. They moved off T.J. Hawkinson, and they're heavily entertaining moving off of Jamal Williams. So then they weren't considering that before. Now what that shows to me, they're out on Dan Campbell. They're done. End of the season, done. I don't know how you can climb back from a demoralizing loss like Sunday when you're up by 14 points and you yet again blew another game. I mean, it's inexcusable and absolutely pathetic at this point. I was really pulling for Dan Campbell to start this year, but I'm done hearing about the passion. I'm done hearing what the energy guys are playing with. I don't give a shit. Win games, and that's exactly what the Lions front office is thinking, and you're going to see that at the end of the year. So the next one, the second to last one that I want to bring up is Chase Claypool going to the Bears, and I'll add my 2 cents in on this one. This again is a very good symbolic trade because what it shows to me is that the Bears are listening. The Bears are listening to all the murmurings about them, about how they're too focused on defense. They're too reliant on acquiring defensive players. They've heard the chatter and they see the talent that Justin Fields has. Now, I guarantee there's a ceiling, but it's the best quarterback they've had in probably since Jay Cutler. So they've got to reel in this opportunity here. So they moved off of Robert Quinn. They moved off of I'm blanking on his name right now. This is unbelievable. This happens to me when I'm cold. Oh, Roquan Smith, man. I'm sick right now, and when I'm sick, the Pistons are not exactly pumping up here. Probably have to help me out a couple times about this segment. And they acquired Chase Claypool, so it shows me they're starting to actually put an emphasis on offense for once, and I'm happy to see it because the franchise needs it. The fans need it.
I just wish they would have gone out and got somebody better than Chase Claypool. I mean, I'm all for helping out, Justin Fields and trading away Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, but Chase Claypool, that's who you go for? Really? Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not that big of a fan of the trade, honestly. I like Allen Robinson more than I like Chase Claypool. I think keeping him in the offseason was a better idea than going after Claypool, but I guess that's why I don't run a team in the NFL because I would have made that move.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, the number one's Darnell Mooney, who I like, but not as a one, right? As a number two, he's been good.
Yeah.
I mean, Allen Robinson last year, like, it's tough. I love A-Rob, I really do, but last year he just was not out there. He was not himself. And that's kind of carried over to LA, but even still, he's getting older. He's getting older. At least Chase a little, younger, and I mean, I don't hate Claypool. I think, listen, it's better than what the fuck they got. I got to be honest. So I think the move for them is good, just because it gives Justin Fields somebody else. I mean, how many times are you going to throw to N'Keal Harry? You know, how many times are you going to throw to Mr. Pettis? I mean, come on, like, you know. So I mean, I know Brian only likes Chase Claypool, but I thought it was a good pickup for the Bears. Truly, I really, just because it's something, and I get, you know, yes, there are better options than Chase Claypool, but in the trade market right now, who else could they have really gone after? I mean, Brandon Cooks. I mean, another guy who's getting up there in age. I mean, Austin, who do you wish they would have gone after, or thought they would go after instead?
Who I honestly don't. All the guys that I would have liked, no team's willing to give up. I
Right.
would have preferred them go after probably somebody in the draft because it looked like they were stocking up a lot of picks for next year.
Mm.
And you know, there are going to be some solid guys coming into the draft this upcoming year that
Mhm.
Justin Fields will allow, will be able to build that chemistry with. I mean, even some players from his old Ohio State days, I'm sure could, he's got a little bit of chemistry with them, so maybe they get them in the draft. I don't know. I personally don't like, Chase Claypool and his attitude is mostly
Yeah.
what I'm not the biggest fan of. He's just he's not very bright, and the play that he can go up and catch it and he's a big target, but like he makes a lot of these stupid errors and he doesn't seem to learn from it, which that to me worries me, especially when you're trying to build it with a guy like Justin Fields who needs chemistry and needs a new target. He's going to I just have a feeling that he's going to come in and try to go with Justin Fields like he's had with Ben Roethlisberger and Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. And you're talking about completely different play styles with all these quarterbacks. Kenny
Sure.
Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and even Ben Roethlisberger all had a very similar play style, whereas Justin Fields is radically different. So that to me is just why I'm just like, really, Chase Claypool? All right.
Well, it's interesting too because in the off season they're going to be close to $100 million in cap space. So um, to have Mooney and Claypool there for now, and then to see what you can address in the off season, I think that's that'll be nice for them. They could have a great future. And, I'm interested to see where Chicago goes.
Now, for all of you Steelers fans out there, and I know you guys like to get on my ass about me being overly critical about the Steelers, and I mean, well, it's oftentimes it's warranted. 2020, you guys were 11-0, and you thought you were invincible, and I called your bluff. You didn't like that, and what happened? You went off the rails. Last year you sucked and stuck into the playoffs, and this year you're absolutely pathetic. So I call you out, but you know what? Nonetheless, that was all brutal honesty, and it was accurate. But now that Chase Claypool's off the team, Ben Roethlisberger's retired, Juju is in Kansas City, I have no reason to hate Pittsburgh anymore. So you guys will probably come to like me a lot more. Giants fans, not as much. Cardinals fans, not as much. Bills fans, certainly not as much. And even Bears fans sometimes not as much. The Raiders will hate me. But Pittsburgh, you won't have as much of a disdain for me anymore. And you'll appreciate that. And the one last trade I want to talk about here, and Zeke, I'll start with you because you love this one. Bradley
Okay.
Chubb, the newest Miami Dolphin.
Well, ever since it was reported yesterday that Miami might be in talks with Denver, I flip flopped a lot because he does have some production, obviously, and he's great as the third best in terms of pressure percentage behind Micah and who was the other one, Miles Garrett. So I like that fact. Now, a lot of people were like, "Are you really willing to give up a first round pick for a guy who?" A is going to need a new contract in the offseason, and B, whose health is up and down. And I got to be honest, with the state that the Miami Dolphins are in, why not? Why not? I mean, they already got a lot of talent on the team. We paid Emmanuel Ogba, who I wasn't really too happy about, $16 million a year. And he's just not produced this year. He's got 1 sack so far. That's unacceptable. And in the playoffs, we all know, the three of us know, right? You need to be able to rush with four because you don't want to be blitzing a lot. You got to get pressure with four. So edge rusher is one of those premier positions, and I'm happy with it. All around, I'm happy with it. I'm interested to see what the contract's going to be. But a lot of people got the first round pick. Listen, picks are picks. It was San Fran's pick anyway. It was going to be a later pick anyway. To get a guy at a premier position like that, I enjoy it. So it was a good day. It was a good day for Miami. Him and Jeff Wilson. Chris Greer, man. Early on in the morning, it was a lot of. I was nervous because we weren't doing a goddamn thing, and I was worrisome about that. But Chris Greer, man, doesn't fail. He been more aggressive this year than the Dolphins have probably been ever. I know there's those times with Mike Wallace and Brandon Marshall, whatever, but this is different. I mean, we're talking about Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and Teron Armstead in 1 year. That's pretty. You're going for it, and so all around, I'm a pretty happy Dolphin fan today. Got to be honest.
Well, congratulations, you guys have finally grown a set of balls. It's only been 80 years. You've finally grown a set.
Oh yeah.
That pick, you guys, traded away that everybody's flipping out about. It'll probably be the 32nd pick overall. Just saying. It'll be the 32nd pick overall. Austin, what do you guys say about this?
I think it was a great trade. Honestly, I think both moves that the Miami Dolphins made, getting Jeff Wilson and getting Bradley Chubb, I think they're fantastic. I like Bradley Chubb. I liked him last year, and he was a hell of a player last year. And he's been that good of a player this year. Just seeing the little bits of him that I have, he's a hell of a player. And Jeff Wilson, I mean, that was good on San Francisco's part to get rid of him, just because he was kind of being wasted there, considering they now have Christian McCaffrey. But I mean, going to a team where he's familiar with the coach, familiar with the offensive scheme, and thrived in that offensive scheme last year. I mean, I like it. I like it. I think there's probably no better fit for him. And the Dolphins needed another weapon in the backfield because I believe one of their running backs went down earlier this year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, Chase Edmonds. So Raheem has become Chase started the year as a starter. Then Raheem took over because Chase started, not being able to catch the goddamn ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Chase Edmonds actually got shipped to Denver today, so I'm pretty happy about that. So.
Well, in that case, Chase Edmonds for Jeff Wilson. I'll take Jeff Wilson, please.
Oh, definitely, definitely. That puts Miami, I think, in a much better position where what they're paying for is actually worth it. And to build up for that, Bradley Chubb. I joked around about Miami, having a set of balls for the first time in franchise history. But it's on a serious level, it's really true because probably since Dan Marino, I really have not seen the Miami Dolphins front office express this amount of confidence in a coaching staff, in a roster, and in a culture in my entire life. I've never seen them this aggressive and this comfortable with what they have. So, as a Dolphins fan, that's got to feel amazing. And
yeah.
I really they built this thing from the ground up. They were frugal early on, started to build a team, kind of dissolved a little bit, but now I think they have the right coach, loyal, supportive fan base behind them, and this roster that's been developing over the past year. And I think there's really something cooking in the 305, and Bradley Chubb only adds more value.
Yeah, it's exciting. Obviously, we got to see consistency from Tua. We've seen that the guy can play, right? I don't want to hear that shit anymore. The guy can play. All right, he's for real. But we got to start seeing consistency in that. On games that he started and actually finishes this year, he's 5-0. That's great. And all these names are great. Bradley Chubb, Teron Armstead, Tyreek Hill. But what matters is making it actually happen on the field, right? You can have all these fucking guys. Actually doing something with it is what matters. And so we're 5-3 right now. We can't get comfortable. You know, Chicago's going to give us everything they got on Sunday. And so consistency is going to be big for Miami.
Well, you've got, there's names, but I feel like you guys have the right guys at this point. Like it's not like an LA Rams thing where you're just going out and just grabbing Bobby Wagner, Allen Robinson. You're not just grabbing random ass guys. Like the picture making actually have purpose and intention behind them. And I really think it's going to benefit you guys in the long run.
So